G'day and welcome to the Choosing Your Uni National Virtual Expo. I'm your host, Rob Malicki, and this session is on CQ University. I can't wait to get to it because this institution has some really interesting strengths. But before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And before we get into things, I'd like to thank those of you who are joining me live on the live stream. You can participate by dropping any of your questions or comments into the chat, whether you're on the session hub on the Choosing Your Uni webpage, whether you are on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Go ahead and knock yourself out, and I'll try to get to those by the end of this session. And if you're watching this on the replay, also you can add your questions not in the chat, but on the Choosing Your Uni Discord. Details in the session description down below. You can ask anything from personal questions that are quite niche to very broad questions about going to university, and we'll absolutely answer every single question. If you're a parent, you're probably not on Discord, but if you are, awesome. If you're not, then we've got a Facebook community just for you. So what are we going to get to in this session? Well, we're going to be talking about what CQ University is known for and who'd be really well suited studying there. We're going to hear from a student about their experience studying at CQ, and we're also going to listen about its academic strengths and its research strengths as well. I'm going to give you some of the hard data about CQ Uni. We're going to be talking about rankings and ratings, how it performs on a global scale, as well as in the Australian national data, things like student satisfaction and employment. And I'm going to get behind the hype, behind that marketing speak, to tell you what it all means and whether or not some of those rankings even matter to you. Finally, I always love to give people points of comparison, so I'm going to dive into which other institutions maybe belong on your shortlist if you're comparing them against CQ University. Now, before we get started, this whole event has been made possible because of Southern Cross University, our major presenting partner, and so a quick word from them, and then we're going to get straight into this session on CQU.
Today's students are tomorrow's front line. Today's visionaries will become tomorrow's leaders. And today's research will discover tomorrow's solutions. For ourselves, for others, and for our world. Southern Cross University. Transforming tomorrow.
Well, here's a statistic that might surprise you. CQ University is ranked 25th in the entire world on the Times Higher Education Social Impact Rankings. Not 25th in Australia, 25th of the planet, which literally puts it ahead of hundreds of universities that you've definitely heard of. Harvard, Oxford, you name them, all these massive institutions, CQU outperforms them. However, this possibly isn't the university for you if what you're looking for is like that big traditional sandstone campus with ivy on the walls and 50,000 students walking around. It's just not that kind of place. So if your main goal is like prestige and a massive brand, then CQU probably isn't going to be on your radar. But if you want a university that actually reaches into the real world, into regional hospitals, mining operations, farms, schools, trade workshops, and build your degree around that. If you want flexibility that doesn't necessarily fit around a standard mold, perhaps this session is worth sticking around and watching. And of course, you can watch all of our sessions live and on demand via the session catalogue down below. But before we go further, maybe I'll let you hear, in this case, this is an audio clip from the Choosing Your Uni podcast, hear from a student who's studied at CQ Uni. Tell me what else is unique about CQ.
I would definitely say our support services. We have a range of support services that students can access regardless of where they are. From my experience, definitely used Academic Learning Centre. They're a great resource to help for assignments, essay writing, referencing, all that fun stuff. We also have a fantastic careers team that have helped me look for jobs and really narrow down my search, so they were great as well. But that's definitely what makes us unique, is our broad range of support services that we have.
All right, so let me tell you about what CQ Uni is genuinely known for. First and foremost, it's the only dual sector university in Queensland. What that means is that it runs both TAFE, like vocational education programs, along with university programs, all under one roof. So TAFE traditionally gives you hands-on qualifications like certificates and diplomas. And at CQU, you can start with the TAFE qualification and then pathway directly into a full undergraduate bachelor's degree without changing institutions. That's not something that many universities can offer. It's a model that's a lot more common down in Victoria, but outside of that, almost nobody offers it. But what I love about it is that it means the gap between practical training and university level study doesn't exist at CQU. So if you want to start and do a trade certificate, but eventually end up with a degree in engineering, CQ Uni is the university that's built for exactly that kind of pathway. Secondly, the spread of this institution is truly national in a way that no other Australian university is. That's kind of funny, isn't it? Because most people won't have heard of CQ University necessarily, and yet it has one of the best spreads, perhaps the best spread of any institution. So it has campuses or study centres in every mainland state of Australia. Rockhampton is, of course, home base, and I really love that campus. We'll talk more about it. But you'll also find study centres in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Cairns, Mackay, Bundaberg, Gladstone, and Emerald. I've got to say, that's unusual. Emerald isn't unusual, but having that many sites is definitely unusual, because most universities, and especially regional ones, typically serve one region or one major area. CQU serves a whole country. And a huge proportion of their students study online, which means CQ has gotten really good at online education. This isn't a university that just had to bolt on online learning during COVID. It's been how the institution has operated for a very long time. Interestingly, that makes it comparable to an institution like the University of New England, which was one of Australia's first distance education providers, literally by posting course notes out in the mail. So if you're looking for that online education space, there are similar institutions. CQU, University of New England, Charles Sturt University are some of the options that may actually suit you if you're looking at online. Thirdly, the industry linkages are significant and they're specific, but they're serious. CQU has direct partnerships with organisations like Queensland Health, like BHP, Rio Tinto, organisations of this scale. Every professional degree includes structured work integrated learning, which means real placement work, real world work, and real connections before you graduate. So if you're going into health or engineering or IT or education, you're not just studying theory, you're literally getting hands-on with the work. And that's incredibly valuable and valued by employers. Another serious advantage for me is that the cost of living in places like Rockhampton is really worth knowing about. So if you're someone who'd benefit from studying at a uni where rent doesn't feel like it's going to eat your entire budget, regional universities absolutely offer a genuine financial advantage. You're looking at roughly like $180 to $350 a week for shared accommodation in Rockhampton, which is just dramatically lower than places like Sydney or Melbourne. Now, all students, Australian domestic students that are Commonwealth supported, like all public Australian universities, access and pay their fees through what's called HEX Help. It's a government loan scheme where you pay back your fees as part of your taxes. And the Australian government covers 50% of your overall cost of tuition. So it's essentially subsidised education. If you want to understand how that all works, we have a whole dedicated session on it, session in the details below. And that, it was actually on the first day of the National Virtual Expo. You can go back and stream that now. And likewise, if you want to ask any questions, drop them in the Choosing Your Uni Discord or in the chat here during this session. And we also have a great keynote. If money is a concern for you, Mandy Money's School Leaders Money Essentials is an awesome session that you absolutely must go back and rewatch. All right, let's talk about teaching and where CQ Uni is genuinely strong and where it's got some muscle. Firstly, the university runs more than 250 qualifications, everything from TAFE certificates right through to research doctorate degrees. And that broad range is really that dual sector advantage. But not everything is equal. Some areas here clearly punch above their weight. Firstly, like many of our strong regional universities, in the health discipline, CQU really punches above its weight. Nursing, midwifery, occupational therapy, public health. These are some of the areas where the university concentrates its resources and where it runs particularly strongly. The Institute runs health clinics and simulation labs that give students real clinical experience before they graduate. The School of Nursing, Midwifery and Social Sciences and the School of Health, Medical and Applied Sciences are both really strong enrolment clusters at CQ, and the graduate employment out of those fields tracks well above the university average. Engineering and technology is the other standout, and one of the things that grabbed my attention when I visited CQ Uni a couple of years ago is its Centre for Railway Engineering. Who would have thought? But that is an area of absolute expertise for the institution. Railway engineering is nationally significant. And so if you're interested in trains, CQ is the place to be. But not only, if you're interested in automation, in renewable energy, or in infrastructure engineering, this is a research base with genuine industry relevance. They've also just launched a renewable energy microgrid, which I think is super interesting. That's on the Rockhampton campus, and it's solar and battery systems that double as teaching and research tools. That's phenomenal. Hands-on opportunities for students. Education is also a major strength. CQU has deep roots in teacher education and training for its regional communities, and their ERA assessments, essentially that's like the National Research Quality Evaluation, rates CQ Uni's research at or above world standard in nursing, education, agriculture, and engineering. As a regional university, that's a really strong portfolio. The Appleton Institute, based at their Adelaide campus, does internationally significant research on sleep science and human factors. Now that might sound super niche, but it has direct applications in transport safety, shift work, and health. This is practical stuff that's really helping real people. We mentioned agriculture just before. The Institute for Future Farming and Future Farming Systems is based across Bundaberg and Rockhampton, and it works on super important topics such as climate resilience and agricultural sustainability. These things are critical for the future of food security. Once again, this is research that's tied directly to the industries that matter for regional Australia. One thing that doesn't always show up in rankings, but absolutely matters to students, and that's CQ's employer satisfaction ratings, which sit at 86%. Now, this to me is one of those areas that speaks louder volumes than most people think. What it means is that employers who hire CQU graduates are really happy with the graduates that they're getting, 86% plus. So when you go and study at CQU, you finish your degree, employers value the skills that you have. They think that you've got the skills. That tells me that the education quality is good and that outcomes for students are strong. So in fields like health and engineering, where employers are desperate for qualified workers, CQU's placement model also gives graduates a genuine head start. You can explore all of our sessions. Once again, in the session catalogue, you find that down below. Now let's jump into scholarships. And there are 150 scholarships available annually, including equity and needs-based scholarships that are delivered as part of the CQ Uni Cares program. There are also merit-based options for international students, and the Vice-Chancellor's Pathway Awards specifically support students transitioning from TAFE into uni study. And that, to me, given the dual sector model, really makes sense. Now, I just want to share a fun fact with you, just to have a little bit of a break. I need a glass of water. Here's a really fun fact, and we'll be back in just one moment.
I got my first grade at uni, and I just laughed out loud. It wasn't just a pass, I actually got a high distinction, and I'd always done terrible at school. I did the PSP course at SEU, which gave me like the foundations of what you need to be able to study at uni, and I didn't fail that, got good grades, so I was like, hey, we'll keep going. Studied a bachelor in psych, did all right, so I kept going and got into honours, and now I'm writing a thesis. Getting that first grade was the first time that I felt like I can actually do this, and it has led me to get to where I am now, and I'm really grateful of it.
Okay, let's get into the numbers, and there are a couple in here that might catch you off guard. Firstly, as we were just talking about, CQU's graduate employment rates is one of the strongest in the entire country. And I mean like genuinely right up there near the top. But there's some tension in this data because one metric tells a very different story to another. And understanding why is what separates a smart decision on your part from just reading like the university rankings. I'm going to break that down in just a minute. But let's start by going through CQU's numbers. And this comes from the Australian government's national data set. It's called QUILT, Quality Indicators of Learning and Teaching. It's an independent data set, literally responses from hundreds of thousands of students and employers, indicating things like student satisfaction, graduate outcomes, and the like. I'm also going to look at the world rankings delivered by QS and Times Higher Ed. Firstly, student satisfaction. Are students happy with their experience at CQU? Well, at just under 80%, CQ is above the national average and places it actually above in the upper half of all Australian universities. So I'll be honest, for a uni that has a really diverse student body, lots of mature age students, and lots of regional students who are online, that is an extraordinary result. Students who study at CQU, as a broad statement, feel supported and they tend to rate their experience well. And the university has really invested in creating the environment for that. Next, teaching quality, which is part of what drives student satisfaction. The fact that they have this flexible delivery model, students can study online, but they can also come on campus for different elements of it. That ability to mix or do things in block mode from time to time is what the university has built its systems around. And so rather than online being kind of bolted on as an afterthought, the university has genuinely made it flexible for students to study, and that shows up in the statistics. Graduate employment, we talked about this just a moment ago. The rate of 86% is really exceptional. And to put that in context, the national average sits at 79%. So CQ Uni's rate of graduate employment is higher than every single one of the group of 8 universities. That's the coalition of Australia's 8 most prestigious research incentive institutions, like Melbourne, Sydney, ANU. Why? Because CQU's strongest disciplines, health, education and engineering, are all the fields with chronic workforce shortages, particularly in regional areas. So essentially, you've got employers that are waiting for graduates and boom, the university's delivering them. So jobs are available much more easily for those graduates. When we look at graduate starting salaries, it also, this regional nature and the demand for jobs flows through. 78,300 is the median salary for a CQU graduate. And that's well above the national average. It's the same driver. Regional health workers, engineers, educators, commanding strong starting salaries because the demand is high. When we look at the national rankings, the global rankings, CQ is just around about 500th in the QS World Rankings and sits in the 400 to 500 band in the Times Higher Ed group. That basically puts it between 26th and 28th on the national scale, which you might look at and say, oh, well, that's not an awesome result. It's about 40 unis in Australia. But what you've got to realise is that these rankings measure things like academic research output, how much research is put out, and how much is that research cited by other people. It also heavily favours old, prestigious institutions because it has an international reputation component. So obviously, the Uni of Melbourne has got a much bigger international reputation than CQ Uni, except maybe for trains. And so those institutions tend to rank more heavily. So it doesn't really tell you much about these rankings, about whether or not when you go to class, your lecturers are going to know your name. And in fact, CQ Uni's strengths show up in the outcomes data, like student satisfaction data and the like, employment data, rather than these kind of prestige rankings. So it really depends what you're looking for in the experience. And to be very honest, you can compare all of these sorts of elements, rankings and ratings and opinions for every university on the Choosing Your Uni platform. It's free. It takes less than a minute for you to join up. And basically it's like an independent, unbiased, very knowledgeable ChatGPT just talking about your university choice. It's all configured around your interests, goals and preferences, not around who's got the biggest marketing budget. Okay, so we're getting towards the end. Let's compare or think about which universities you could compare CQ Uni against. And the first one is the obvious geographical comparison. Both CQU and James Cook University are your Central and Northern Queensland institutions. James Cook is based in Townsville and Cairns, so a bit further up the coast, and it's serving communities in those regions north of Rockhampton. However, both universities are particularly strong in health. Both produce graduates who go straight into the regional workforce. And James Cook has a particular edge when it comes to tropical and marine sciences, that's for sure. However, CQ Uni has that edge when it comes to the dual sector nature, being able to start in TAFE and go through into a degree, as well as the broader national network. So if you're looking to choose between these two, the questions for me are where do you want to live? exactly what you want to study and what pathway are you looking in. If you're looking for that vocational into higher ed, then I reckon CQ is a great choice. However, you can watch the James Cook University session as part of this National Virtual Expo. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Give you the choice and give you all the information you need. The next comparison for me is Charles Sturt University in New South Wales. It's also a regional institution with a large footprint all across New South Wales and absolutely outstanding graduate employment outcomes. 91% makes it the highest in the country in terms of employment of graduates. But like CQ, it serves students who really want a real-world, career-ready degree and fields like health, education and agriculture. Both universities are deeply embedded in their regional communities, but if you're drawn to the CQU model, however you're based in New South Wales, Charles Sturt Uni might be an option that's a little bit closer for you, but that offers a similar experience. Just thinking off the top of my head, another one that sort of fits that mould might be the University of Southern Queensland and even the University of New England. These are institutions that have strong online options and also really service their regional areas. Now, the final one that I would mention, I'm trying to think about a location where you've got a strong university, strong community, the university is servicing that community, but also has some areas of strength in things like health and engineering and everything, but that has a completely different experience. And my recommendation would be to look at the Uni of Tasmania. Tasmania, they pitch themselves as the university for the island, or the whole island is your university. CQ, warm, hot, humid, regional town, mining and agricultural focus. Tasmania, cool climate, small capital city vibe, a little bit more like culture in that sort of cafe and an art house culture. Each university has different strengths, but really kind of very different in many ways too. So there you go, just like a completely out of the box option. If you're looking at some of those fields of study, but you're looking for a completely different experience, why not Tassie? Lots of people move there from all around Australia and the world. All right, so just want to see how much time I have left. I do have a minute, which is good. So look, once again, we've had a number of awesome keynotes as part of this National Virtual Expo, including a brilliant one. There was a workshop with Anita Van Ruyen on making confident decisions. If you're hesitating, don't know how to work out what's going to be the right option, check out the recording of that keynote. And there's also a session that I've done on getting started with choosing your university, finding out which option is actually the best one for you. Now, I have got a couple of questions that have come in advance, so I'd like to start with these ones. Okay, so this is from Declan. He says, CQU has campuses all over the place. If I start at one campus, is it possible for me to then transfer to another without any hassles? And honestly, this is one of CQU's genuine strengths. They are totally set up for flexibility across their network of campuses, including online study. So in most cases, you can transfer between campuses or switch between on-campus and online mode pretty easily. Now, of course, some degrees have specific requirements, and so it's probably be good for you to check with the specific department in question. But as a whole, this is an institution that is really configured, absolutely configured for flexibility. The next one, is online uni study actually as good as being on campus? Great question. It really depends on you and the course. The thing you can say about online study is it gives you flexibility. But of course, you miss out on that social connection, that spontaneous conversation that can happen in the hallway. And, hands-on work is more detached from if you're just studying on campus. Now, a lot of online study or many online degrees may have a practical component or a block component where you need to come and do, for example, all of your practicals on campus. So that's an opportunity for you to really engage with the students who are in your cohort. And I've actually heard good things through students who do study online and have an amazing time as part of that block study moment, because it's their chance to meet and connect and get to know their peers. So online study can be really effective if you're disciplined and you're self-motivated. But I personally think for most school leaders, I would absolutely recommend at least starting on campus if you can. So there we go, for what it's worth. I am out of time there. So those questions that have come in, I'll make sure that I answer them on the Choosing Uni Discord, also the parent Facebook group, Facebook community, details down below. And it's been really great chatting about CQU. I love this institution. Actually, just as an aside, I think they've got one of the best university leaderships in the country. I really like Professor Nick Klomp, who's leading up that institution, passionate about equity and access, passionate about regional universities and communities. And I think he's really led that institution in an incredible direction. So that definitely counts as far as I'm concerned as well. Great leadership at university. That's all I've got time for. Hopefully see you at one of the other sessions throughout this week. Thank you for joining me. My name is Rob Malicki. I'll see you next time. Well, I hope you got something out of this session. And if you have any questions at all, you can head to choosingyouruni.com and ask Lumen. Lumen is your AI guide who knows about every university, every pathway, every option that we've talked about throughout this virtual expo. And Lumen is available to talk to you 24/7. So it's ready when you are.